Early.
Whoops. I always do that.
What?
When I'm not paying attention, I go live and I forget to do the intro.
What?
All right,
do the
so
intro.
This is a little... all right, whatever.
Still not sponsored by Duncan. It's the Woodworking Morning Show.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
The clock is not broken, and
Nope.
no, we're not an hour early. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
We are on the mountain time zone.
The mountain time zone.
And, yeah, what's going on with the...
I don't know. You okay?
No,
Everything working?
No, it's not working. I'm not seeing anything here.
Well, I'm just going to keep talking
oh,
to
there
myself.
it goes. I'm delayed. Imagine
Yeah,
that.
you are. I got to say, you're delayed.
Are you new here? You're probably wondering what's going on.
Oh, it's the morning show.
The Woodworking Morning Show.
And we talk about woodworking stuff, answer some questions, a lot of community things. Nicole grabs questions from the chat room. I have some questions here.
This is Mark. I'm Nicole.
Oh, look.
We're totally up. You're so flustered. Like,
whenever I start with the live thing and forget to put the intro on, it's game over.
Yes.
I'm all over the place. All right, so let's get started. I want to thank some people who helped us out on Patreon, as well as the YouTube membership thing. That's actually growing quickly.
It is.
One thing that we're doing with that. So, by the way, if you look at, is it on mobile yet?
I don't know.
Okay, so it's been on desktop versions where you look under the video, you'll see a little thing that says join or membership or something like that. It's just a way for you to support your favorite creators. We have that set up so that if you join, you get some bonuses, including an after show, as well as occasional extra content.
So there's two levels. There's the after show level, and then if you want to give a little bit more, there's some behind the scene content.
Yeah, I just put up a video the other day. Just a quick couple of minutes showing a little more in depth of what I was working on in the shop. So if that's something you're interested in, go check it out. I want to thank Cummings Woodworks, Dave Miller, Brendan Quinn, Mike Hammer, Nicholas Castle, Rich Eklund, Bill Larson, Aaron Dowie, Brandon Hogg, and Brian Thibodeau. All those folks either did the patreon.com/woodwhisperer, or the YouTube thing.
So
and we
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Very nice.
Thank you so much. Hey, speaking of thank yous,
I
got a couple little thank yous myself here.
Got a little thank you.
I want to thank my buddy Josh over at Josh He Scott.
That's a cool.
It's a great logo, right?
It's a great logo, and it's his favorite kind of shirt.
Yeah, I like the thin stuff. I like some thin, Nicole, so my nipples pop out when I walk around.
Nice.
So thank you so much, Josh, for the T-shirt. Love me some T-shirts.
Sorry. I was just trying to test on the mobile app.
Screwing around, Nicole.
I know.
Screwing around. Yeah, so you can check him out at He Scott Design, and I believe that's how you pronounce your name, Josh.
We hope so.
I've heard people say that, and I think that's how it's pronounced. HESCOTT design.com, and then also check him out on Instagram at Josh He Scott.
Instagram.
Josh He Scott.
Instagram.
So that's our show today. So we'll see you guys next week. All right, let's get into it.
We got some questions.
Oh wait, I got one more thing.
Well, before you do that, I'll say I take questions from the YouTube chat, and for those that can't make usually, or stop it.
Sorry.
Or want to get their questions at the top of the show, we have questions from the YouTube members section and the Patreon section that Mark has pulled. So if you're new, it's helpful to know.
So if you have seen the Morley videos in the Guild, you've probably seen the L fence that he uses. Ben over at Chalkstone Woodworking makes these pre-made. This is obviously something you can make yourself, but sometimes it's nice to just buy one that's pre-made and ready to go. So he sent me one because we were kind of talking about it. And
where were you talking about it?
What's that?
Where were you talking about it?
Well, in the Guild, everybody's talking about it because this L fence concept of like trimming and using it as like a flush trim operation is new and different. I mean, new in the sense that a lot of people haven't seen it. though the technique itself might be, pretty old depending on those who are using it. But anyway, so you use this L fence to trim to a template. You can also do other things with it. It's pretty cool, and I get a lot of questions about, is this really safe? Is it? So the only way I could really evaluate the technique is to have one of these myself and do it. So Ben was kind enough to send me one, and I will be trying it out. And maybe, I don't know, in a future demo or guild meeting or something, we'll talk about it.
I like the tomato.
You can't not notice the tomato. It's called the L tomato fence. So
I was going to ask if he was from New Jersey.
I don't think so. I think he's in the Northeast, though. I might be wrong on that. So go to Chalkstone Woodworking is his website, I think. Yeah, got it right here. Chalkstone Woodworking, and you could find that fence there, as well as videos showing how it works if you're interested in like what's the whole point of this thing.
Apo Opina wants to know how your Ember coffee mug is working out.
So far, I mean, it does what it's supposed to do. It does what the reviews say. The battery doesn't last forever. You got to get it back on the charger. But if you're looking for a couple of good, constantly warm cups of coffee, it's great. If you're in the shop, if you have another charger, or maybe you keep your charger plate in the shop, that's probably best, because whenever you think about it, if you sit it down on the charger, that can help, slow the battery loss down. Overall, I like it, but I don't think it's still...
I like my coffee mug.
I don't think it's rave-worthy yet. I think there's still, we have room for the technology to get a little bit better, but it's still pretty darn good. As you can see, I'm using it.
So our friend Bill Duran over at Punish Props, he does a lot of prop making, like cosplay stuff. His mother, Deb, made this and sent it to me. It's her Ruth Bader Gimbridge.
I'm going to let you just roll with that. I'm not even going to correct you.
Gimbridge?
Gershon.
Ruth
Bader Gershon.
Terrible with names.
Yep. Especially
anyway,
the
I love it.
ones.
I absolutely love it.
Good job, Nicole. Okay, let's get to some questions. So I got a few here. You got a few. Let's get going. Rich Eklund wrote in. He says, I'm building a workbench and I am torn on the number of round dog holes to put into the top. How many is too much? Well, if your top looks like Swiss cheese, I'd say that's too much. Basically, your main set of dog holes, you might find differing opinions on this. Mine are spaced every 5 inches. So whatever the length of your bench is, every 5 inches, if you have a dog, you'll probably be covered for most things. Some people want to go a little bit closer. 5 inches on center has worked out perfectly for me. With the round dog holes, though, you may have other things you want to use around the bench, other clamping items, holdfasts, stuff like that. You only really need 4 or 5, I mean, depending on what you do. The good thing about round dog holes is you could add them anytime you need them, right? So I would go for the main strip of dog holes in the front, and then for the rest of them, add a few. Kind of put a couple spaced out along the bench, and then see how it works out. Because a lot of times you might, I'll look at where mine are and I go, man, I wish I had one just a couple inches over, but I can kind of rejig what I'm working with to make it work. So it wasn't like I needed to drill another hole. But if I needed to, drilling a hole ain't that hard, right? So
I don't know. I kind of messed that one up over on your...
Drilling intentional holes. I mean, it was very easy for you to drill that accidental hole.
This is true.
You're like, oh, look what I just did.
I was like, oh.
People are asking, since that Outfeed table just came out, which shoot, I'm not really good at announcing these things. Yeah. The Outfeed Assembly Table video, that just came out yesterday. The plan is available if you're interested in picking that up.
If you're not a subscriber of the channel, you probably didn't know.
That's right. So Nicole drilled into the top and made the first real big scratch in the new car, let's call it. And my mom actually was asking me, she's like, I think it was her who asked me, were you upset by that? Did it bother you? Well, I think, why was I talking about this with my mom?
I don't know.
Maybe I was. Anyway, no, not really. The only thing that bothers me is now I have to fill it because I actually draw on that surface.
Yeah.
So a little 3/8 round hole in it is a great place for your pencil
shallow.
to go.
It's just kind of...
It doesn't need to be anything but just a hair shallow before my pencil gets stuck in it. So I will be filling it, but it's not the end of the world. Anyway, if you go to thewoodwhisperer.com or, of course, to our YouTube channel, you will see the latest video there. Great build. Had a lot of fun with that one. People seem to be enjoying watching it, so go check it out. Oh, and maybe this isn't the crowd to say this to because they're probably already subscribed.
Maybe.
But Nicole had mentioned, we don't dig into our stats very often, but Nicole had mentioned that something like 75% of the people watching our videos are not subscribed.
Probably didn't even know it.
75%. That's crazy. And using the YouTube app, I understand why. I started following a lot of tech people who do like PC gaming reviews and builds, and I had been watching a few of them. And YouTube is real good at feeding you stuff it thinks you like, right? So it keeps feeding you these channels that you're watching. You don't even know that you're not subscribed. You assume you must be because they keep showing up. So I guess that let's make that a little request. If you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and you won't miss out on anything.
I have a question here from Kent Frost. Hey guys, first time catching the live show. He beginner woodworker here.
Yeah.
Still getting my basic tool set built up and already working on a few projects around the house with the, oh, I thought there was a question there. Sorry, Kent.
That's just a nice comment.
Good. Keep going.
Yeah, good luck with your projects.
Yes.
Sebastian says, I'm planning on building a slab cabinet door or slab cabinet doors, and I'll probably end up edge banding some plywood sheets with some solid wood strips and then applying the veneer on top of that. That's a good technique. I like that. My concern is that the paper layer from the paper-backed veneer could end up being visible when looking at the side of the board where the edge banding is. Most of the raw veneer sheets that I can find online are quite narrow, less than 20 inches max. So you get what he's saying here? You get a piece of plywood, you take a solid wood strip, you glue that on first, then you flush it to the surface, and then you take your veneer and put it on top. And what that does is it makes your entire face a smooth, continuous run of material without a cross-banded, piece of material on the border. And actually it looks really good, and it's a great way to make a a piece of plywood kind of look like solid wood. It may not be 100% perfect, but it's pretty darn close. So he's asking about the paper-backed veneer. Paper-backed veneer is, think of a very thin sheet of wood with a piece of paper that has been glued to one side. This can be handy if you are dealing with a veneer that needs to take a lot of bends, that maybe it's going to crack or bust apart on you. It's good if you are maybe veneering something that you can't necessarily put into a vacuum press or put a lot of clamping pressure on, and then you use something like contact cement to attach it. But in this case, he's talking about the widths of these being the reason he doesn't want to use raw veneer. I would still recommend you use raw veneer. I haven't worked much with paper-backed veneer, but I have to imagine when you're going for this level of detail and you look at that side that you will see a nice, consistent white line, and it may be tiny and minuscule, but I think you're going to notice it, and I think it's probably going to bother you. That's my best guess. So I would avoid it. And if your sheets are coming in under 20 inches and you need them wider, is there a reason why you're not gluing them together? Veneer sheets are very easy to, expand the width of a panel. So that would be my recommendation. Go with raw veneer, get enough material so that you can cut it up and joint them together, almost like you would with solid, full-size boards. I've even got a video. It's an old video, way back in in the 10s, somewhere in there.
Soul Patch days.
Back in Soul Patch hat backwards days. That's a great place to check, and I show you how to stitch together pieces of
I
veneer.
love that your facial hair is like the timeline.
Yeah, you can identify. I think for a lot of guys, it's like that. You can identify maybe haircuts, right, or facial hair.
Yeah, that's true.
And now hair changing color is another thing. Although I really screw it up when the occasion that I put dye in my hair, where people think it was a lot longer ago, and I'm like, it was just 6 months ago.
Paul had a quick question about the Outfeed table plans, about why we put a limit on the number of downloads. I think it's just, like, if you need more.
I get it, and I'll go change it. I understand. But I think the reason is because, and this is, I think, let's call this a consumer unfriendly perspective that I'm presenting here when I say, how many friggin' times do you need to download it? Like, download it and then you got it, right? So the reason people put these restrictions on there is to prevent sharing of links, to prevent people coming back and giving it to someone else so it can be downloaded over and over and over. It's a security thing. But as is often the case when it comes to security protections, they are often end-user unfriendly. So let's say someone has a computer problem and they click the link too many times and they just whatever reason, they didn't actually get the download.
It was the same way with the book, the digital book.
Yeah.
I had it set up through a system called Pulley, and they just defaulted. You could only download this 3 times unless you contact me, and then I could I could manually reset it, which is the same way with this.
It can always be manually reset. And I think when you just think of it from like the seller's perspective, if you put a limit of 15 times or 10 times on there, you go, yeah, I think 10 times is enough tries. Because once you have the file, you've got the file. But if that is creating a problem for technical reasons, I can increase the limit. I can make it unlimited so that they can go back anytime. And I know that's way more convenient for people, but it also then presents a security hole. I'd rather make customers happy
Sure.
than worry about people stealing a $15 plan, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the question. I apologize for the limit. And after we're done here, I'll go in and increase it.
Hey, welcome to the bonus live show, Donald Norton. He just signed up.
Oh, sweet.
Give him a little shout out.
Hey, Donald Norton.
Hey.
Put up there. New member, welcome.
Drinking the coffee.
Having a coffee. Oh, just like us.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
And you gotta,
Garrett Barton says, have you seen the new Woodpeckers multifunction router base? Think that would be a significant upgrade to your Festool Edge Guide? The dial adjustability looks very interesting. Okay, so Woodpeckers, we kind of alluded to this last week. We talked a little bit about it. They have this new multifunction router base. It does a lot of things. I think if you're just looking at Edge Guide functionality, a lot of that you still have in the Festool Edge Guide. Festool makes what is probably the best Edge Guide on the market. You know, assuming that the Woodpeckers is not on the market. Technically, it's not yet, right? I think is it a one-time tool? I think I have it right here. Let's check. Is it one of the one-time tools? Scheduled to ship late July. You know, it's funny. It doesn't say one-time tool, though. Maybe this is just... see, sometimes Woodpeckers knows that a product is going to be one that they want to offer over and over, so they just turn it into a regular product. And this might be one of those. I don't see anything about a one-time tool here.
Yeah, it just says add to cart.
Okay, so the multifunction router base, go there, watch the videos. It does a lot of things. In terms of being an Edge Guide, is it a significant improvement over the Festool Edge Guide in that one function? No, I mean, there's things that it can do. It actually has the availability to expand and do much longer lengths than you can with the rods that come with the Festool Edge Guide. But the micro adjustability on the Edge Guide on the Festool is fantastic. I think it's probably comparable in that sense. But what you get here that's very different is a lot of other functions. This thing can do a ton of things. It's fairly large. It's a little bit cumbersome when you're thinking, if you're only thinking Edge Guide, you look at this thing, you go, whoa, that's a lot of meat. Like there's a lot of other stuff going on there. But that's where you get the other functions, right? So it does circle cutting, it does, I actually haven't really investigated, I don't have one yet, but I know it does a lot of other things. So if you're looking for that kind of system, Empower had that other system where you can do all these different things, and the Edge Guide aspect is just one of those things that it can do. So if all that looks interesting to you, it looks like a good system. Woodpeckers makes good stuff, and this checks a lot of boxes that a Festool Edge Guide alone is not going to check. So
I had a question here from, I'm sorry, I just assumed you were done.
I am done. Sometimes I'm not done, but
I
should be
done.
done.
Yeah, that's kind of when I'm like, oh, I got an opening.
Go for it, Nicole.
Scott Wallace wants to know, good morning. I was wondering if a miter joint on a plywood cabinet is a good idea. How can you protect the outside edge from damage without a round over?
I don't like it. I mean, plywood has a very thin veneer. So when you bring that miter together, you have what can kind of be a fragile corner on there. If you round it over, like you're saying, you then expose. You go through the veneer layer and you get down to the core of the plywood. So I mean, you can do this. It's something that people do all the time. It's certainly possible. It's just not my favorite material to put in a case miter joint like that. No matter what you do, I would recommend reinforcing it if you can. Get a spline in there, or biscuits, dominoes, something. Dominoes might be tricky.
So Ryan also said, what's your recommended joinery method for mitering plywood joints without a domino? Are they similar
biscuits?
Kind of
yeah,
questions?
kind of. Along the same lines, biscuits. I mean, really, with plywood, you're talking about layers that are crisscrossing, right? So when you put them together, you actually can get a decent glue joint in there, assuming you have a good 45 without a lot of air gaps in there, and you get some decent clamping pressure. But again, I just don't think plywood is a great candidate unless maybe you're using shop-made materials. So you have shop home-sawn veneer on there, and now you've actually got close to 1/8 of an inch skin on the outside. That's something I can get behind because you got a little bit more material to work with. So it's just something, unless I absolutely had to do it, I would never do it, just because it sends me down a path of inconvenience and problems. That makes sense. Okay. Shane Myers says, I noticed in your Outfeed build table video you were using the Woodpeckers track square for your guide rail. Do you find that the adjustability makes it less reliable for cutting square? Trying to decide between Woodpeckers and TSO, but wasn't sure if the adjustability would end up being a negative instead of a positive. Okay, I can tell you, Shane, maybe twice I have moved that thing off of 90, and then I moved it back, and it hasn't budged. The fact that the adjustability is there, almost 100% of my cuts are square cuts. And the one thing I love about that is every time I go to use it, I go, it's been a couple of months since I used that. I better check this cut and make sure it's square. And I'll be darned, it's square. So the fact that the adjustability is there, if you don't touch it, I can definitely say it's not going to move on its own. It seems to really lock down and hold its setting. The couple of times that I've moved it to a different angle, it hasn't really created a problem for me, but I don't do it frequently. So I can't even tell you for sure if this is something you're doing routinely, that it's going to be a problem. I don't know. But for me, it hasn't been so far because ultimately I don't make a lot of angled cuts with that. Really, most of what I'm trying to do is make a square cut on the end of a piece of plywood, and that's what I use it for.
That's what I use it for. Got a question here from David Hernandez. Can you give some suggestions for a good table saw overhead dust collection? I was like, what's a TS table saw?
Yeah.
Right now, my paramedic throws out so much dust.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
Sort
it's
of?
not connected to anything.
I was going to say, it doesn't look like...
There's a couple brands. I don't follow this area very closely. I have a Brett Guard. It was made by HTC. They don't make it anymore. It had a little, maybe 2-inch or 2.25-inch hose connection that did absolutely nothing. So I don't connect it anymore because it's just a waste of time. There are other brands out there. Excalibur is one of the nicer ones that you'll find out there. Some of these are meant to connect to a bigger dust collection system, not just like a shop vac. So if you can get that 4-inch hose in there, maybe the dust collection is better. And maybe if the shroud is larger, you have the ability to catch more of that airborne stuff. With my setup, it was just useless. Excalibur would be the one I would check out. But I think our chat room is going to be the place to go for other recommendations because there are other brands and other models out there. I'm just not familiar with them.
There you go. I got a question here from Ruben. Do you have a recommendation for a router table?
I would have preferred Ruben ask me if I have a recommendation for a good sandwich.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Got it?
I got
It's
it.
pretty good, right? What was the question?
He just wants a recommendation for a router table.
A router table?
Yeah. Doesn't MLCS have router tables? They usually give me one to give away for the woodworkers fighting cancer.
You got your MLCS, you got your Jessam, you got your Incra, you got your Woodpeckers, you got your Craig, you got your Rockler. They all make, I don't know why I went Boston there, but they are all pretty darn good. I mean, a lot of times when it comes to these router tables, they really differ in their creature comforts.
Yeah.
They're all going to work.
Well, look at I'm going to MLCS's website right here and just searching.
Is it because they're a sponsor, Nicole?
They are a sponsor.
Is that why that's happening?
And they also have a guild discount.
Full disclosure.
Yes, full
hashtag ad. Not really.
But I will say,
But she's throwing some love.
they have a ton of different ones. It's like the extension cast iron. They're the
They really do. I didn't realize they
power
had such a variety.
There's a huge variety of them.
So I
the
think
tilting table.
It's going to differ in your creature comforts. Couple of things just to look out for. The plate, the little inserts that go in that you can size to the size of the bit. Some of them are made out of metal. Some are made out of plastic. Some are made with
cast
metal.
iron. That's metal.
Yeah. But the inserts aren't made out of cast iron.
Right. No, but this one is made out of. Okay.
Thanks, Nicole. Always a pleasure.
I know.
So depending on what you do, you may want plastic or you may want metal. Now sometimes these, especially if they're metal, you want some level of adjustability because when that pops down into that opening, if it sits high, when it's metal, you can't do anything about that unless you can kind of adjust that height a little bit. So some people prefer the phenolic inserts because once you have one of those, if it sits high, you know what you can do? You can actually get a block plane and you can plane it down a little bit so that you don't get caught up on it. For me personally, after trying a few different ones, I've gone to metal. I really like the Incra setup. I like the fact that the inserts snap in with magnets, so you get a real good positive lock in there. And then they have a little shroud that you could put on the underside of the router table that surrounds your router that you could hook up to dust collection. And then it also has an offshoot that goes into the fence. So the insert itself, they sell regular metal ones, but they also sell ones that are very perforated's not the right word, but there's a lot of air holes and air strips in there that allow the dust to get sucked down into that thing. So that's why I went with the Incra. The dust collection on it is absolutely fantastic. Everything is rock solid. And then the micro adjustability of the fence. I don't necessarily like micro adjustability everywhere, like the table saw, but on the router table, I find that incredibly handy. How about dialing in a sliding dovetail? Doing that without a micro adjustment system, it's very much trial and error, a little tappy tap tap. With a little dial on the Incra, you can kind of just dial it in every thousandth. It's pretty amazing. So I fall in favor of the Incra. That's why I have that one. But there are so many good brands out there. It's really hard to just pick one that's definitely better than the rest. They've all kind of got their crap together.
So someone had asked me about the guild, so I sent a link to our member benefits with the guild, and I got a question here from Bradding. He said, I purchased the plans for the Outfeed Assembly Table. Does that garner guild membership? And unfortunately, they are separate because that's just a plan. When you come into the guild, you got foggy.
My coffee fogged up my glasses.
When you come into the guild, that's
how hot it is.
It's not just plans in the guild. So it's if you look at the prices, you'll see the differences.
They're priced accordingly. Yeah, we do something very different on the free site. I make a video. The video is fairly short, because it's for that environment. It's not as long as the productions in the guild. And as a result, the plan itself is beefier. It's a 30, I think for the Outfeed table, it's like a 35-page plan with written instructions. But I still expect you to watch the video to fill in any gaps. In the guild, the video is the instruction manual. There is no written manual. So you get a PDF, but it's just images and measurements and a cut list. The video is your instruction manual. So it's a very different offering, but we understand that we're just one company. So it's not as clear as it could be, I guess, that there's the TWW public site, which has videos and plans, and some of those plans cost a few bucks.
Yeah.
And then on the guild, everything except for the free tier projects.
Except.
Yeah, it's not confusing at all.
We should get a big piece of paper and I'm going to try to simplify this.
It's hopefully if you go to each website, it should be clear when you get there.
Yeah.
We do our best to communicate that. Let's see. Where am I? Kim.
I don't know.
Kim says, my partner would like to thank you for your advice on not multitasking with projects. I have more motivation to finish as I want to move on to more exciting projects. I did get an I told you so. Partners are great for that, aren't they? Yeah. Strangely, my next project is an Outfeed Assembly Table. Good timing. Watched your build today and wondering, do the wheels get in the way when working? I am really good at kicking my toe. Not in my case, Kim, and I'll tell you why. I've got a little bit of an overhang that accounts for some of those wheels sticking out. Once the little leg, the little thing, the little floopy thing, once it's in the up position, I would say that's protruding maybe 3 inches off of the cabinet. Well, at least I would say 2 inches of that is accounted for with an overhang. That just is something that helps your mind and body sort of instinctively avoid that area. But you still have an inch to account for, right? Well, I have my Incra miter gauge attached to the side of the cabinet with a handle that sticks out. So seeing all that stuff on the side is at least for me, I don't know if you just randomly trip over things, but my eyes see this and I kind of instinctively navigate around it. I don't know,
our son trips over air a lot of times.
Sure he does, he trips over his own toes.
I'm like, why are you falling? There's nothing around
But you see over there, that's what we're talking about?
Yeah.
It's something where I think if you have enough obstacles there, your eye just kind of sees it better, and then you don't trip over it because you avoid it. So for me, it hasn't been a problem. My last question here is from Will Hooper. He says, I have a helical head in my jointer and planer, and the wood comes out pretty darn smooth. Should I still start the sanding process at a lower grit, 60 to 80, or is it okay to start off at a mid-grit, 120, 150, and work up to 220. All right, first of all, if your stuff coming off of your jointer and planer requires 60 grit, you got to look at maybe calibration, new blades, or something. Like 60 is insanely low. I don't think I've got some 60 grit, and it stays up on the shelf for when I need to maybe do like a refinishing project, and I want to just grind the crap out of a finish to remove it. For regular woodworking, power tool woodworking, you should not need 60 for anything. Lecture over. 80 grit is still pretty darn low. You shouldn't need that either, but sometimes if you have a real, maybe your jointer needs a good sharpening and got a nice washboard effect, you'll save time by just hitting it with 80 and then going from there. But if it's already coming off pretty darn smooth, you go with the lowest grit you have to. Like get away with as much as you can. So if it's coming off of your tools really smooth, really smooth, there's absolutely no reason to start low. Start at 120, start at 150. There are some jointers and planers out there that leave such a smooth cut. All you have to do is hit it with your finish grit, 180 or 220, and you're done, right? It's all about the visual appearance of the surface, and you don't see flaws in the surface, then don't worry about going down to a lower grit.
Got a question here, so let me talk.
Yeah, please do. I'm going to write a memoir. It's going to be called My Battle with Phlegm.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. It'll be a sticky story.
Yeah. Let's see. I got a question here from Brian L. You've talked about making alder look. Oh, wait. You've talked about making alder look like cherry. How?
Yeah.
Stain? Have you talked about it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
They call it poor man's cherry.
Ah, do you have a video? You don't have a video, do you?
It might have been discussed early on in like the arts and crafts table that I built. We're talking again like the early 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe teens. And I used alder for that project. I may have discussed it in that video, but holy moly, that's a while ago. I don't remember. But I may have brought it up in live stuff.
Is it stain that you do? You stain?
I don't think you really need to. The good thing about alder is it kind of looks like, so cherry goes through color changes, right? So when you first finish it, it kind of has a little bit of a pinkish salmon color, but it mostly can be described as a light to medium brown. Alder is light to medium brown and stays that way. So alder is really cool because it kind of stays in that early cherry family. If what you like is dark aged cherry, alder's not going to get you there, but you might be able to stain to get there. The idea basically is that alder grain pattern kind of looks similar to cherry and can pass for cherry in a lot of ways.
David says that coffee equals phlegm.
Stop it. Don't talk to me about that.
Don't tell me what I don't want to know.
I've already cut down on milk to try to help this, and now you want to take my coffee? Yeah, I know. All of my habits tend to lead to this outcome.
Yeah.
And these are things I love about life.
Yeah.
I'd rather quit the show. So I can sit in my office by myself,
we need
drinking coffee,
a little
and never doing a show.
A mute button for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
All right. Brian wants to know, I know this has been discussed, so I apologize. What are the 2 to 3 most versatile hand planes to own, and what is the best mid-range brand, not least or most expensive?
I don't know on the brands. Wood River, maybe. I hear some people giving mixed results with Wood River planes. Best 3? Well, you can cover the whole gamut, really. I mean, you don't have to do, I'm sure you aren't necessarily going to be doing a ton of rough milling with your tools. So kind of what I have here on the wall, you've got a smoothing plane, block plane, and then I have a jack, but you can get, a jointer plane, a 7 or an 8. You're basically, Chris Schwarz described this the best in a video that he did. He probably even has an article on this. Coarse, medium, and fine. You always want to think, and it's the same thing with power tools. We have things that do the coarse work, the medium work, and then the finishing work. So if you're thinking about your hand planes that way, that will also help. Now I throw the block plane in because I don't think you need the coarsest level, especially if you are either buying your material that's kind of somewhat surfaced or you have access to a jointer and planer. You certainly don't need a scrub plane, right? That's the lower coarse end. So that's why I'm saying you're basically going with your medium, which would be your jack plane, and your fine, which would be your smoother, and then throw in a block plane because it's a good utility plane. And then, of course, whole different topic if you want to get into the joinery planes.
We just got 2 new YouTube members. I want to say thank you to Rick Eskenaton. I'm sorry. And then J. David Slough.
Yep.
Did I say it right?
Slough.
Hey, you never know what I'm going to do when I try to say your name. It's all right.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got another question here from Nick Gutterman. I'm late. What did I miss?
Everything.
What's the difference between using the Incra 1000 HD with no sled versus the Incra 5000 with a sled? Didn't you do a whole guild meeting about the Incra 5000 and the 1000?
Yeah, there was a guild meeting about it.
You did a guild meeting, right?
Yeah. Well, the difference is, if I'm understanding your question, it's a miter gauge versus a sled. So all the differences between miter gauges and sleds apply. A miter gauge is something where the work is still riding and contacting the table surface. So sometimes that friction can play into how good it feels to make the cuts on that. A sled is something where the workpiece is actually immobilized. It's not really sliding on anything. It's on a carriage that's being carried through the cut, which tends to feel better, I think, for most people. So the real differences there are just a miter gauge is a miter gauge, and a sled is something that has a little bit more functionality to it. And especially if you look at shop-made sleds, Incra 5000 is fantastic if you just want to buy a solution. That's what I use. But you can also build some great sleds. I mean, YouTube is full of videos about table saw sleds, and you could build one yourself for fairly little money and get something pretty good out of it. But the differences come down to really that platform. It's that everything is sitting on a platform versus something that's dragging across the saw.
Heather just wants to know, how do I join be a full guild member? You just simply buy a project from the woodwhispererguild.com.
You know what's funny about this? Not to interrupt you. Heather's picture just kind of, it's a really nice picture of a lady, kind of looks like stock photography. And then the question almost seems like a planted question.
It does a little bit.
This all seems a little too convenient.
Heather, you're setting us up.
Do I owe you money at this point? That's fantastic.
The projects range anywhere from $25 all the way up to $120, depending on the project itself. But once you purchase a project from the guild site, you're a member for life, and there's a whole spiel on the member benefits.
And there are 2 free projects that you can get there, the dovetailed step stools and the picture frames series. Not as in-depth as the other projects in the guild, but a little bit of a taste. And most importantly, it gets you in the system and gets you on the website so you could see what it looks like. I mean, look, let's be honest. There's a lot of Zoom classes that you could take now. There are people who are trying to do things like the guild, where it's an online course or they're selling, detailed plans. Everybody's kind of doing something a little bit different, and some of it is better than others, right? So I think it's important to be able to get inside there and actually see what this environment looks like, what kind of support there is, what's in store before you actually put any money out. And the guild's been there forever, so I think if we were doing something wrong, you'd probably know it by now.
And I think a lot of the projects too have there's like a review section on a lot of them too. So look around, and that's honestly, a lot of people ask, what projects should I start with? And it's just, what do you want to build?
Heather says she's not a plant. Good.
It sounds like Heather is going for good buddy status, Robert said.
Yeah. You can see. Well, my good buddy Heather just said, I came in on the tail end of the first conversation about it. I'm a school teacher.
She's a school teacher.
Oh. Well, thank you for your work. You guys don't get thanked enough.
No, you don't. Believe me.
The one that's dealing with my son today, I would like to thank her right now for occupying him for a few hours, so we don't have to.
I made sure to treat them well during the holiday. Actually, they have Amazon wish lists too, so I just sent them a bunch of stuff they wanted for their classroom. So
I think it's important. I mean, I believe the children are the future. You teach them well, let them lead the way.
Gotcha. For the young ones that don't know what he's doing, he's referencing a song from the 80s.
There's nobody young in this chat room, Nicole.
Yes, there
it's a bunch of old people.
There could be somebody young in that
It's
audience.
all of us olds. So I think Kevin Windsor has a question about AARP that I'd like to answer. Okay, sorry.
Oh my God.
What else?
Wikers Woodcraft. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. What are your thoughts on commercially made flip tables? I currently have a Craftsman with a space for 3 tools. I'm considering a flat top bench with understorage for my bench top tools.
What in the hell are we talking about?
A flip table.
Okay, so one of those multi-purpose tables,
I think
like
so.
Brad from Fix This Build That has one of those. So let me see the question.
I don't know. It's right here.
Commercially made flip tables. Like anytime you have a multitasking thing, it's a compromise, right? So when we talk about joiner planer combo machines, I mean, unless you spend tons of money, you tend to sacrifice quality. And even when you spend tons of money, what you sacrifice is convenience, because now you got to switch back and forth between the 2 modes. So multi-use things always have that kind of compromise. But if you need the space, and this is going to allow you to fit more tools into a space, then go for it. Like, it's not something I would do unless I absolutely had to do it, but that's where these ideas come from. You know, the whole necessity is the mother of invention, right? You need to do it because you need the space. So I'm in favor of it. If it is a safe and proven design that gets good reviews, go for it. But look at, what's his name? Brad Rodriguez from Fix This, Build That has one of the most popular ones out there. It's probably got gazillions of views on the video. He's got a rotating thing that he made that seems like a really good one. So
I put the link to the Whitney Houston song that Mark was referencing.
What? Come on. People don't know that?
Mr. Ripper Sag says, I'm 33 and didn't catch the reference.
Come on. Well, even if you didn't catch the reference, you go, man, Mark's really a thoughtful guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He really believes in the children. They are the future.
Oh,
really, they're the future by default.
By default,
Yeah.
This is true. I got another question. You have anything you want? I like it when you throw questions up from
me too.
from the chat.
I really do.
So, you want to do that or you don't want to do that?
Hold on.
Because I could get you another question.
I'm looking. Someone's asking about Deadpool.
Yeah. Oh, somebody asked what the band hammer is. If you're new here, the band hammer is just that, a hammer with the word ban on it.
Yeah, I just answered this question yesterday, which is I'm surprised people don't know. So I guess maybe if you haven't moderated a forum.
It's a play on words.
Yeah, so there's a thing called banning people from online communities.
Which we run multiples on Facebook. We have one called the Woodworking Community, which has over 50,000 people in it.
Yeah.
Probably some bots, but for the most part, they're people.
Sure.
And then we also have...
They're people-ish.
We have the Guild Facebook. So if you're a Guild member, there's only about 5,000 people in that group.
And the Wood Talk Online Forum.
The Wood Talk Online Forum. And
anyway, the point is when you ban someone and you kick them out, essentially, people will say you're throwing down the ban hammer or you're hitting them with the ban hammer, which is just an expression. And one of our mods, Scott. Let's base it on this.
Scott's building. I saw on his Instagram. He's building the gaming coffee table.
Oh, really?
It's looking
Scott
really good.
Hampshire. We actually met up in Seattle, and he brought this in. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. And he's like, it's yours. I was like, are you serious? This thing is fantastic. So the band hammer lives on the wall and has a place of honor always. Okay, I do have a couple questions.
Good.
Here. Mr. Flat Skater.
I like it.
Mr. Fliskater, any tips on joining long boards on a small jointer? Yeah, start off straight. The problem is a small jointer doesn't have a long bed. And the shorter the bed, the less reference surface you have, and the more straight you need to be to get started, right? So if you have the ability, maybe a circular saw and a straight 2x4. I said that in a video recently and got a lot of laughs about that because finding straight 2x4s is actually much harder than it sounds. But maybe a metal stud, something to guide that saw. If you can hit the edge with that, that will actually get you mostly straight, and you could just do the fine tuning on your smaller jointer. You also could use a hand plane. So if you have a board that's got a really, we're just talking about edges right now, you got a big bow in it like that, or a cup, you can just hit the high spots. Use your hand plane. You don't have to be perfect with the hand plane. Just get the high spots so that you kind of have a mostly flat edge and then use the jointer. I think if you start with really whacked out pieces on a small jointer, you will never get there. It will constantly, do whatever it's going to do with that weird shape as it goes through and the piece kind of moves up and down on the bed. So get it as straight as possible first and go from there.
John said, thank you for relieving me of the pain trying to remember who sang that song. I was right there with you. I actually just typed in the words of the lyric.
You couldn't remember?
I couldn't remember either.
I believe the children are the future. All right.
Oh my God.
So J. David Slaw says, that's our alarm. How often do you do the live show?
Every Friday.
Every Friday. Same time.
We've been doing this live show every Friday since 2014. 2014.
That's
In
nuts.
fact, you can find on our website, we actually have a section on thewoodwhisperer.com just for the live show. You can find it on YouTube too, but it kind of looks more impressive when you go to the website.
Okay, we got some good questions here.
What's a good question?
How do you grow your business even more? Says Nick. Nick, you look young. If that's you, you are young. If that's not you, or maybe maybe it's a son.
Yeah,
it could be. I don't know. How do you grow your business even more? Well, that's a very broad kind
Very
of question.
Big question.
It's a big question. You do more of what works, right? That's one way. And there's a lot of answers to this question. I'm just going to give you one because it's a short show. If you find something that works or something that has success, you're building something and it sells well, make more of that, right? Lean into the things that are working for you and get rid of the things that are not working for you. For us, we tend to expand into other areas, right? So this live show was an example. We wanted to grow that side of the business, the community sort of outreach side of the business. So we leaned into that and kept investing in it. And now we have a show that we think does fairly well and people seem to tolerate. So it's good.
I have fun. It's the only time I really talk to you.
Yeah, there you go. Of course, on the surface level, you grow your business by advertising. You make people aware of your business and do great things and let people know about it. It's not always the easiest thing to do. That's very generic advice.
Yeah, we have some talks that we've done over the years. I'll see if I can find them and put them in the show notes. Joe Southern says, is the guild the same thing as Woodworkers Guild? No.
Well, hold on.
I'm thinking he's referencing Woodworkers Guild of America.
Yeah, there's Woodworkers Guild of America, WWGOA. Not us. We actually started around the same time and coincidentally ended up with names that sound similar. But that's a natural name because in the woodworking world, you have things called woodworkers associations and woodworkers guilds. And guilds, it's just a natural thing for craftspeople that group together.
Or if you play World of Warcraft.
Or if you're a Warcraft fan, or probably other MMOs.
Yep.
So guild was just the natural word to use to say we're a serious group of people who are getting together to learn the craft and share information about the craft. So WWGOA is a very different product than what we offer in the Wood Whisperer Guild.
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
Thank you, Gerald R., for becoming a YouTube member. Did you see the super chat that came in from, where'd it go?
MPA Kirk?
Yep.
MPA Kirk?
There it is.
Okay. It seems Nicole is way out of your league. Was it your great taste in tools that attracted her to you? No, it wasn't my taste in cars either.
No, it was his taste in electronics and technology.
Yeah, she liked my TiVo, my Dreamcast, and my sense of humor.
I liked, yes, you made me laugh. That was a big part of it.
That's it.
The technology, he was a forward thinker.
Well, and I try to express this to Mateo as much as possible. It's like, look, if you can't be good looking, you better be funny.
You're good looking. I don't know why. I think you're paying me a compliment, but you're not giving him a compliment.
I have a mostly tolerable face. And I think it's very important to develop one's personality if you can't rely on like just having a great body or being super good looking. You better be interesting.
Look, I was not an attractive child, so I developed a personality too.
Yeah, but then you blossomed.
I had these pictures of me with these horrible bangs.
I like your bangs.
I had some gnarly bangs. I think even like my 6th grade school picture, I even cut my own bangs, and so they're like this.
Yeah. Okay, jointer bed extensions, good idea? I don't think so. A jointer bed extension, think about go watch my video on setting up a jointer. Look at the effort I went through to get 2 pieces of cast iron in alignment with one another and then translate that to how well that's going to work for an extension. Now the caveat to this is if you just need like a little bit of extra support, but you're not counting on it being completely coplanar with your infeed and outfeed, then you might be able to get away with it. There have been times where I put a roller stand as close as I could as like to be even with my beds, but it's a few feet out. And it kind of gets you there, but if you're counting on it to be a true extension that's accurate, that's hard to do. So just make sure you don't have too high of an expectation for what that thing can do for you, because it might actually cause more problems than it solves.
Pod Camp. We did a thing called Pod Camp years ago. Mark and I did the intro to it. I wonder if they still have that recording out there. I'm not sure, but I'll check. There was a question from Tim JB, he wanted to know how your mail order pizza was. You still got 2 downstairs.
It was not, okay, so when you cook a pizza and then you wrap it in saran wrap and ship it across the country, you can't have really high expectations, right? The flavor was decent. The thing is, actually, with this particular tomato pie pizzeria, I've never been there. My mom knew about it. She said they used to be in Trenton, and they moved out to
Seaside.
Seaside Heights. So a lot of people do know them, but I didn't because it just wasn't around. So I don't even have a basis to compare it. Like if I could get the places I used to go to ship me a pizza, then I can actually compare that to, flavor, texture, all that stuff. So I don't have the basis to compare it. That said, it was a good pizza. But I think the next time I cook it, I might have to kind of bring it to life a little bit, maybe with a few drips of olive oil on the top, because it was a little dry seeming. But overall, it was a taste of Jersey, and that was pretty good.
It was a fun surprise Valentine's Day
It was
gift.
fantastic.
I'm so thoughtful.
You really are. What did I give you?
The night off of putting Ava down at
No,
bedtime.
I got you lobster tails.
Oh,
and
yeah.
crab.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's kind of more of a gift for me, though, if you think about it.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It's all right.
All right,
It's
we're good?
I don't need anything for Valentine's
Am
Day.
I a big Bruce Springsteen fan? Well, who's not a fan of the boss, right?
So-
but no. Bruce is great, but not something I listen to a lot.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Soma Rob keeps asking about egg cream. I don't even know what he's talking about. What is egg cream?
It's a thing.
What is it?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I've never
we
had
don't know
one.
what it. I thought maybe he was talking about the Cadbury.
Cadbury cream eggs?
Because you have a couple of those in the fridge.
Yeah.
That I got you.
I
love you.
I don't know. What's that? Isn't it a drink?
I don't know.
An egg cream? Like a dessert drink?
Hey, Nick followed up. He says, I'm 17 and own my own woodworking business.
Well,
Take
look,
some business classes. Seriously.
yeah, get out. If you're into woodworking and crafting and making things,
Learn the business side of it.
and I'm going to say this
Marketing.
with love, because I think there's a lot of people with good insights out there, but get out of our industry and talk to people who run businesses,
Yeah.
right? There are people who build things and craft things, and they're terrible business people. And I think their advice sometimes can be challenging. I think you need to make sure you focus on people who run successful businesses in other areas, because a lot of those lessons are applicable, and they're lessons that a lot of these people aren't going to teach you, right? So I would get outside of our environment. Don't
Diversify.
Yeah, definitely diversify and get business advice from people who know business. And then apply that to your woodworking and to your crafting, and you'll be way ahead of everybody else. You're already ahead because you're 17 and you're thinking
And
about
you're thinking
this.
about this. That's huge.
So good for you.
So if you're still in high school, see if you can sign up for like any kind of business class, whether accounting, know your numbers, know your books, that kind of stuff, marketing.
Peace and love,
all
peace and
kinds of
love.
it. I know so I went to college and I was a business major. He made fun of me because
Well, look, I went to Ryder, which used to be Ryder Business College.
yeah.
So their business side of their education program was huge.
We partied a lot.
And the people who were in the business classes were the ones we made fun of because we were jealous.
Yeah.
Because we were stuck in labs doing experiments and working hard while they were the ones who were out having a good time on the weekend.
This is true.
Yeah, it is what it is, Nicole. An egg cream is a cold beverage consisting of milk, carbonated water, and flavored syrup. Despite the name, the drink contains neither eggs nor cream.
Interesting.
It's like grape nuts. No grapes, no nuts.
I know.
What's the deal here? All right. Anyway, I think we're pretty good, right? We're done?
Yeah, I'm sure I missed a few. Actually, we did get a super chat come in from Aaron Fenn. What?
So, all right. Worth the effort. Quality woodworkers aspire to lower middle class as the pinnacle of success. There's some truth there.
It's a lot of work.
It's a challenge when you're passionate about an art form or something like that. A lot of times it's the business education that goes by the wayside because you're so focused on your craft and your art, and it's a challenge to do both at the same time. So some of the most talented woodworkers out there are barely eking out a living because they don't really have a mind for business, but they really have a mind for creating the things they make.
And you should know, we started the Wood Whisperer back in 2006 as a way to document Mark's custom furniture business. And I was going to use it as a marketing tool to show customers to say, look what it takes to build this.
Or like, this is part of what you get
Yeah.
is a documented experience of your table being built. Turns out that wasn't that good of a selling point.
Not at all.
But then people are like, hey, make more videos on building stuff. We like it.
Yeah.
You want me to put that
Yeah,
up there?
super
Aaron
chat.
Fenn says, loving your Q&A lives.
Also, shout out.
Q&A, I got you. Also,
Shout out to check out Worth Effort's new turning class.
okay, that's who we just put
Yeah,
up
we
on
just,
there.
Worth Effort.
Okay.
Where's your, what is it, Worth Effort? What's his website?
Probably wortheffort.com. What's your website, man? What is it? Everyone wants to know. Hold on. Wortheffort.com. It's got to be. He's owned that name for a long time.
Speaking of online classes, I signed up for a wood burning class from Taz Boards. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
His wife is a wood
I saw
burner.
what you signed up for, and it's a couples class.
Yes.
And I was like, are you going to talk to me about this? I didn't know I was getting into pyrography.
You're going to join me.
We'll see about
They're going to
that.
send me all the stuff, and then we're going to do some wood burning.
You know I have wood burning tools, right?
I don't.
Okay. Yikes. Bob has a great question. Let's finish on an potentially awkward sponsor question. I see you're a Powermatic supporter. Would you upgrade to a saw stop? Who says it's an upgrade, Bob? I'm not sure that it really is.
Yeah.
Powermatic, I think that's a back and forth relationship. I'm a supporter of Powermatic, but they are a supporter of us as well.
Since the beginning.
I think SawStop is a great technology, and I think anyone getting into the market right now or getting into the craft right now probably should be looking at SawStop as a top contender for their table saw. But it's a weird time still for this market because it's a technology that really should be applied across all saws. It should be something we all have an upgrade option for, but we don't. So unfortunately, that leads a lot of people to SawStop. If you don't want to pay the extra money, and if you don't necessarily look at what happens with SawStop and how many false positives there are, people who are just not paying attention and they hit it with an aluminum fence.
And it's not just, you can get hurt other ways.
It's only addressing one type of safety thing, and that's a cut. But most people who have a problem with a table saw wind up getting a kickback to the gut. That's going to happen if you're doing things wrong on a Powermatic or on a SawStop. So I'm not. This is not a diss to Powermat or to SawStop at all. I do think you should be looking at SawStop, but don't think that it is going to solve all of your safety problems with a table saw. It only solves one problem. But it is a very good saw. I hear their instructions and the assembly instructions and the packaging is all really, really good. But there are a lot of people who just make the conscious choice to go with a different brand because they like what that brand offers. So for me personally, it would be nice to have the safety feature, especially since I have an employee now, which kind of changes my thoughts on risk and things like that. When it's only me, it's a different story. But understand that I've got a working relationship with Powermatic, and it would be really stupid of me to get a SawStop, right? If we're being frank about it. And a PM2000, I had a PM66, then upgraded to a PM2000. It has served me well, and I tend to be pretty darn safe because I have to be. I'm teaching people. So I try to be as safe as I can around the saw. And the truth is, if you are safe around the saw, you should be fine.
Kenneth said the
lapse in attention.
SawStop patent is up in August. Can't they renew that though?
These things always have, you always hear that, right?
Yeah.
Hasn't the Festool Domino patent expired 10 times already?
Yeah, I don't know.
You hear about these things and then somehow nothing happens. So I'm sure if there's a legal loophole for SawStop to continue the stranglehold on the technology, they will do that, right? If there's any way to have it done, they will do it. That's just the way the current climate is right now.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Hey, guess what? It's time for the after show. We're wrapping up this show. We talk primarily about woodworking here, but we have an after show for Patreon and YouTube supporters where we talk just about anything.
Yep, it's going to be a good time.
Already have a ton of questions lined up for that show.
Tim JB says Cremona uses a SawStop.
Yep.
Cremona got a SawStop for free, so make of that what you will.
Well, again,
nothing's free.
Nothing's free.
Should we talk about that?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I agree, nothing is free. Cremona worked hard for anything he has.
Yes, he has.
Except for his wife. I don't know how that happened. Hey, someone can say that about me.
I know,
could say it about
I know.
All right, well, thank you for watching, everybody. We'll be here again next week.
Next week.
Every week
Every
on
week,
Friday.
9:30 Mountain Time in the morning.
Cool, and we'll see those of you in the after show.
Oh,
the after show.
I'll put a link. If you're a Patreon supporter, it's probably helpful that I put a link for that.
Hey, what's the deal with the giveaway thing?
What do you mean?
We give away a guild project?
I do.
And you were saying something about the members?
So YouTube, if you're at the $4.99 level on YouTube and you make a comment on the post that I put up, or if you're at the $5 level on Patreon, after the shows are over, I do a little random pull, and
Okay.
somebody gets a free guild project.
There you go.
I just don't do it here because it takes time.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody, and you have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
What is your question, Adrian?
Yeah, so he said that.
Oh.